Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of the Travis on Sports podcast. My name is Travis Tyler, and I'm excited to talk about the latest news surrounding the sports world once again with you. If you're looking at the dates on the episode lists on your computer or wherever you're listening and thinking there's some missing in February, don't worry about it. There isn't. We got a little bit of a delayed recording here, but that means that there's a lot to cover over the last couple of weeks, so we're going to get into it and go all the way back to Super Bowl Sunday, basically. Today is Monday, February 28th, 2022. Among the things that I'll touch on today, the Rams won Super Bowl 56. There were some retirement rumors after that game that have since been debunked, but there is another former Super Bowl champ retiring. Not great news, but at least there's an update from the MLB Lockout. There's a ruling from the Tyler Skaggs overdose case from a few years ago in the MLB. I'll update the NBA playoff picture as the league recently returned from All-Star Weekend's festivities. Play second half of the season. There's a contract extension for Jim Harbaugh and for the Bengals' Zach Taylor. Talk about a couple of college basketball coaching legends and some more college basketball things. The latest bracketology, some more college coaching news. The NHL trade deadline approaching in a few weeks with some trades already being made as the deadline gets closer. Broken barrier in NHL broadcasting, a MLB player retirement, and a sports entity already making rulings on Russia and other countries in the wake of Russian attacks on Ukraine. The Los Angeles Rams are your Super Bowl champions. They defeated the Cincinnati Bengals in a crazy, entertaining, wild game, 23-20. First title since 1999, I believe, is the official year of the last title. Kurt Warner and the greatest show on turf. The connection between Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp was on full display, clicking on all cylinders. But Joe Burrow and his receivers in Cincinnati did an incredible job matching their production, basically throw for throw. It seemed like Bengals took a lead early in the third quarter that they held until the final couple minutes of the game. But then Matthew Stafford went out there, did what he does best, leading his team back in the fourth quarter. Another come-from-behind win that he's become so good at getting over the course of his career. Rams got the ball and drove down the field largely on throws between Stafford and Kupp, but there were a few other things in there. Got deep into the red zone. The Rams benefited from a couple defensive penalties, especially a questionable pass interference penalty on the linebacker Logan Wilson. Second and goal, about 1:29 left. Stafford lobbed one up to the corner of the end zone and found Kupp, who out-physicaled Eli Apple in the corner and fought him off for the ball from what ended up being the game-winning touchdown. Bengals got another shot. They moved the ball pretty well, very quickly got the ball to midfield, but that's when the Rams defense stepped up and Aaron Donald specifically took over the game from his defensive tackle spot, helped make the third down stop, and then on the fourth down play, he forced Joe Burrow to have to get rid of the ball before he was ready to and caused a turnover on downs and gave the Rams the ball back. Cooper Kupp was named your MVP of Super Bowl 56. The Rams become the second consecutive NFL team to win the Super Bowl on their home field when it hadn't been achieved before last year with the Bucs. As the game approached, there were rumors swirling that both head coach Sean McVay and defensive tackle Aaron Donald may be considering retirement for the Rams after the game. Those rumors persisted for a little while, but McVay's fiance confirmed that he isn't retiring. In an Instagram post, he turned down a reported $100 million offer from Amazon to be their lead NFL analyst, and basically at the parade, McVay and Donald both seemed like they were coming back. However, there is one NFL player who has announced his retirement recently, actually just in the last day or two. Since our last episode, Tampa Bay offensive lineman Ali Marpet has retired at age 28 after just 7 years in the league. Just finished his first Pro Bowl season. He was a second-round pick out of Hobart College in 2015, earned all rookie selection that year. Started all 101 games that he played in his career. Got that Super Bowl title last year with Tampa Bay. Spent his entire career in Tampa, and now becomes latest player to retire early in his career and when he was at the prime of his career. There were also rumors surfacing that agents and players would be plotting a boycott of the NFL Combine over the bubble-like conditions of the event that were described by some as a harsh bubble environment. However, the league since then has announced that players will not be confined to the bubble and will not face disqualification as a penalty for leaving the bubble. Instead, there will be secure areas, but players will not be required to stay within those areas during their free time. The combine will take place this week, with players working out on the field in their position groups. The MLB Lockout continues. There was some optimism as the two sides have been meeting more frequently, but nothing has come out of it. The Players Association has even dropped one of its biggest issues, which was expanding the luxury tax. It's according to the reports that I've read. If you don't know what a luxury tax is, it's essentially the fee that the teams have to pay for being above a certain threshold with their payroll. A lot of times it's for teams going over the cap limit, but the MLB doesn't have a salary cap limit, so it can be a little more lenient there with their cap issues. But the issue between the Players Association and the league was that the league was not willing to increase that as much as the Players Association wants it to. Two sides have met every day for the last 10 days or so, and there's still no agreement. The league had set today, February 28th, as the final day that an agreement could be reached that would allow the season to start on time. Still got a couple hours left in the day, I guess, but it doesn't seem likely that's going to happen. They've also said that the players will lose money for games not being played. The players have said unless they get paid for all 162 games, whether they play 162 or not, they will then vote against the playoff expansion that the MLB wants to see. But, I mean, expansion issue aside, this needs to be figured out. Baseball seems like they're taking advantage of the players here. They got the rumors that they want to cut a certain number of minor league players and have fewer players playing in the minors. That's obviously an anti-player move. Players here are just going after fair value after their contracts have overall decreased as a whole over the past couple of years, and they just want to fair price, maximize their value while they're still able to play. So basically, to me, it seems like the MLB is not willing to sacrifice as much as the players have been able to sacrifice, as demonstrated by the demands that they've dropped that I mentioned earlier with the luxury tax and all that. So the MLB Players Association is far more willing to sacrifice than the MLB is, unfortunately. It should be the other way around. Give the players what they deserve and get the league to continue operating. There hasn't been a lockout since 1994 in the MLB. There was the COVID stoppage, but that doesn't count as a lockout. And like I was saying, every move that Major League Baseball makes seems to be the opposite of what the players want to see happen, and that includes Commissioner Rob Manfred arriving very, very late in the week to the meetings, even though this should be the most pressing issue that his league is putting up with right now. Also, earlier in the month, we got a ruling in the Tyler Skaggs case. You may remember the Angels pitcher died from a drug overdose that was revealed to be fentanyl back in 2019. It was a road trip in Texas. He reportedly got those drugs from former Angel staff member Eric Kay, who was on trial for the death in Los Angeles. Several former players testified, including pitcher Matt Harvey, who admitted to doing coke in the clubhouse apparently during his testimony, which violated rehab and may get him suspended. But overall, the jury found Kay guilty of distributing fentanyl and causing Skaggs' death, and he will be sentenced on June 28th for his wrongdoings. Also in the MLB, Nationals infielder Ryan Zimmerman has announced his retirement after 16 years. All 16 years of his career were spent with the Washington Nationals. Zimmerman was the team's first ever draft pick in 2005 after the team moved from Montreal and became the Nationals instead of the Expos. And he was a big part of rebuilding that team, built them into a perennial playoff contender, and they ended up winning a World Series with him on the team as well. Started his career as a third baseman, moved to first base in 2015, also played a little bit of outfield. Zimmerman was a two-time All-Star, two-time Silver Slugger. He won one Gold Glove. He won the World Series the one year, and he finished his career with a respectable .277 batting average, 284 home runs, 1,846 hits, and over 1,000 RBIs. Another former player in the news, Derek Jeter, has stepped down from his position as CEO of the Miami Marlins. He released a statement saying that the vision of the future of the franchise is now different than what he signed up to lead. Jeter also had a 4% stake in the franchise from the 2017 sale to the group that he was a part of, and he will now give up that ownership stake from the team. He had been the CEO of the team since the sale was completed in 2017, so that's 4 years. And the team won 218 games in that time and lost 327. Traded some star players away like Christian Yelich, Giancarlo Stanton, Marcelo Ozuna, but they also acquired some highly ranked prospects that seem to be making their way towards making a mark in the majors and are a big part of the current team right now. To college basketball and your latest bracketology reports, we'll start with ESPN's Joe Lunardi. If you didn't notice last week or you weren't paying attention too much, there were a lot of top 25 teams losing. The top 6 teams in the country all lost over the weekend, but a lot of brackets still say the same. There's that old saying, if they all lost, then no one really lost. So there were a couple teams that dropped from Lunardi. Auburn drops from a 1 seed to a 2 seed. Providence drops from a 2 seed to a 4 seed. Baylor jumps up from a 2 to a 1. He still has Gonzaga number 1 overall. Arizona, Kansas, and Baylor his other number 1s. Auburn, Purdue, Kentucky, Duke are his number 2s. Texas Tech, Villanova, Tennessee, Wisconsin are the 3s. 4s, he has Illinois, Providence, UCLA, and Texas. His 5s, UConn, Arkansas, Bama, and Houston, and that's as far as I'm going to go in terms of seeding this week. And we're going to go with the top 5 seeds according to each bracket, or top 5 seed lines according to each person's bracket, and then we'll go into the last four in, last 4 buys, all that, first 4 out. Selection Sunday is 2 weeks from yesterday, so we're coming down the home stretch college basketball season. Lunardi's last 4 buys, so the last 4 teams that get in without having to play in a play-in game: San Francisco, North Carolina, Wake Forest, and Michigan. His last 4 in that will have to play in the first 4: Memphis, Indiana, Rutgers, and Loyola Chicago. The 4 teams just missing the field as the first 4 out are BYU, San Diego State, SMU, and Oregon. And then the next 4 after that are Virginia Tech, Florida, St. Bonaventure, and Dayton. And Lunardi has the Big Ten leading the way with 9 bids. The next highest total is from the Big East with 7. CBS's Jerry Palm, a little bit of a different view. He didn't really punish anybody for their losses at all. Providence stays at a 2 in his book. Auburn stays as the number 1. He has Gonzaga as the number 1 overall, and Auburn, Arizona, and Baylor, so most of the same teams there. The 2s, he has Wisconsin, Kansas, Providence, and Duke. 3s, Kentucky, Purdue, Texas Tech, and Villanova. 4, Illinois, UConn, Tennessee, and Bama. And his 5s, Arkansas, St. Mary's, UCLA, and Ohio State. He had a lot less movement in his seeding after the hectic weekend with the top seeds than Lunardi had in his. Palm's first 4 out, he has Memphis and Wake Forest playing each other, and Florida and North Carolina playing each other. And then his 16 seed play-in games are Texas Southern against Bryant and Nicholls State against Cleveland State. His first 4 out are Indiana, VCU, Michigan, and Oregon. And Fox's Mike DeCourcy, his latest ratings came on the 22nd, so that would have been last Tuesday. He has Gonzaga as the number 1 overall seed with Auburn, Arizona, and Kansas joining the Kentucky, Baylor, Purdue, and Duke as his 2s. Illinois, Texas Tech, Tennessee, and Villanova as his 3s. Wisconsin, Providence, UConn, and UCLA as his 4s, so UCLA and Providence falling a little bit there, and Wisconsin. Houston, USC, Ohio State, and Texas as the 5s. Kind of seeing a picture come in here of the top 5 seeds, a lot of the same teams, particularly that 3-4 line. You got Illinois, UConn, Providence, UCLA, Wisconsin, Texas Tech, Villanova, and Tennessee all jockeying between those 2 lines pretty much. A couple people will have Wisconsin and Providence and Kentucky jump up all the way up to 2. Some might have UConn and Bama down at a 5. So it really just depends, how the season finishes out here. Of course, his last 4 in, he has Florida, North Carolina, SMU, and Dayton. First 4 out is Belmont, Indiana, BYU, and Michigan. Interesting that he valued the A-10 in Dayton and over a couple of those Big Ten teams especially. Anyway, coaching news in college